That's a really good question because here's the thing. When you're a functioning alcoholic, the first place that the balls start to drop and the first person that sees it is going to be your spouse. So you may be making a lot of money and you may be holding it together at work, but you're not doing good at home. Because usually it's like you work all day and you see all these clients, you make all this money, but you're stopping on the way home to buy alcohol. So you're not showing up for your wife the way you should. You're not showing up for your kids. He's ticked off at you. You're either passed out or maybe you get grumpy when you're drinking, whatever happens. And so your marriage starts to fall apart first. That's usually the part where I start to see someone. The problem with that is when you've got somebody who's very successful on a lot of levels, a lot of these people I see are like top physicians. I mean, they're run Ironman contests and stuff. It's really hard to convince someone like that they got. It's hard to convince anybody that has an addiction problem they have a problem, but somebody like that, they're like, I don't know what you're talking about.
Amber, welcome to the Tools, Talents, and Techniques podcast. Thank you for being a guest today.
I'm happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Before we get into your work and what you do and your journey, could you just give our audience a brief thumbnail snapshot of who you are and what it is you do?
Well, I am an addiction specialist, therapist by training, turned entrepreneur, online content creator, all mixed together.
Okay. Well, that's good. You see, that was quick, it's concise. So now we can get into the meat of things. So where are you originally from?
Originally from Tennessee. Can you tell by my accent? Most people can, or at least pretty close to the region. Yeah.
When you were growing up in high school, did you have an idea of what you wanted to do when you grew up?
I don't think I really had an idea what I want to do. And to be honest with you, it's sort of in my personality style to just not overthink things and just jump. My friends will say I'm like, shoot first, aim later. So I just jump into things. Sometimes, kind of should have thought about it a lot more. So I didn't have a good plan, and I still don't always have a good plan. I just jump and figure it out. Sink or swim.
I like that shoot before you aim. I use that because I often say I leap before I look.
There you go. Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Sometimes it works out, sometimes, but a lot of the good things I feel like in my life were when my head and my heart were aligned and I just felt like there was something, or I thought like, oh, I want to go explore that and then just do it.
Yeah.
A lot of good things have come in my life by doing that.
Yeah. I like to, when people say that, I'm like, yeah, I go ahead and shoot. I know I'm 4 inches off the target. Next shot, I got it. And you're still thinking about it.
Yeah, there you go. How did you get into, addiction therapy? Like what was that journey like? How did you get involved?
Well, I come from an addicted family, everywhere, hardcore parents or cousins, aunts, uncles, everywhere. But that's really not why I got in the field. I think maybe I was subconsciously drawn in. I didn't make the choice to get in the field. I actually went to school to be a school teacher. First, I taught high school for years, and that was like really hard and horrible. So I decided to go back and get a master's degree. And because I was in the school system, I just thought I'll be a school counselor. I mean, it just seemed like a natural leap. But I couldn't really afford to take off an entire year to intern as a school counselor. So I changed my major at the last minute to community counseling so I could do it in the summer. And they just threw me in an addiction program. So it wasn't really a target I shot for, but I landed there. But sometimes you just land where you're supposed to. So it works for me.
When you mentioned that your family had a lot of addiction, and that's not uncommon. I think most families have addiction somewhere along the line. When did you start piecing those parts together? Were you in school and started to learn things and like, oh, that sounds like Uncle Billy?
Yeah.
Did you start to make those connections early on?
That's a good question because I was already in the field before I made that connection, which sounds crazy, but when you grow up in it, it's just your normal. It's not like I didn't know there was drugs and alcohol being used. I just wouldn't have put that label on it because it just wasn't like a term in my family, really. I just totally missed it. I don't know how, but when it was glaring in your face, but I missed it until I was doing the work.
So when you were in school, was it something that when you were doing it and starting to learn more about it, was there anything that jumped out that you really got excited about it or saw that you have a talent for it? Like what was it that kept you involved and kept you moving forward?
Well, when you go to counseling school, they don't really teach you much about addictions. You take one class and it consists of going to like an AA meeting and writing a report. Like seriously, that's it. So once I got my first job when I call it when I was a baby counselor, and they put me in that internship. It's like an adult outpatient addiction program that place I interned hired me. And because I had been a school teacher, a high school teacher for 3 years, they decided I could work with teenagers. And since I had interned in the addiction program, they decided it would be good for me to create and run from scratch a teenage addiction treatment program. And, I didn't want to say I didn't know what I was doing. So I just said, sure, I got it. And I leaped in there. I was in so far over my head. Like I said, it wasn't really something that I was like, oh, this topic interests me. I wish I could say I got into it for a heart reason because that's how most people get here. I just got here. And so when I was running this teenager program, and I didn't know what I was doing, but I didn't want to acknowledge that or say that out loud. My mission really was just to get these kids to show up because if they didn't show up, then my secret would be out. And this was no easy feat because I had to get these addicted teenagers to show up 3 times a week, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 6 to 9 p.m. So 3 times a week, 3 hours at a time. Even just getting any teenager to show up that amount of time every week is hard. And you layer addiction in on the top. And it was a massive feat. So I focused on just building relationships and making the program being something that wasn't terrible and that they enjoyed coming to. And to my surprise, it worked because these kids got sober so they could come. Because if you graduated my program, you could keep coming as a mentor and help other kids, and they liked to come. So they got sober. They would like work a whole program, get sober, and keep coming because they like to come. And that was sort of the first big, important lesson and secret that I learned.
What were some of the things that you implemented that made it a success?
I think, well, when I was new in this field, I was sort of, what's the word? Intimidated or embarrassed. I didn't feel good about the fact that I wasn't in recovery because everyone else that does what I do is in recovery. And I used to like shy away from answering that question because it's literally the first question anyone wants to ask you when you're in this field. And so, but ultimately, I feel like it may have started as a disability, but it turned into my superpower because I like when you're like, maybe you're blind and your hearing is better. I feel like it's like that because um, I didn't have a story to project onto people. And most people in my field do. And they walk into a situation with someone thinking, I already know what you're thinking. I already know what you're doing. I've been there. And sometimes that really gets in the way of them like listening to people and understanding that each person is different. And I feel like that's huge, huge lesson for me because I don't come in and project and I focus on 2 things. I'm trying to just understand the human being in front of me, thoroughly understand their perspective and make their experience not terrible. And if I did nothing else, those 2 things right there work. And so these days, of course, there are a few more things, but these days I teach other people, family members, how to get through to loved ones in denial about addiction. And most people think there's nothing you can do about that, but they're wrong. I've been dealing with people in denial and getting them sober forever. So I teach family members how to do that.
What types of addictions, when you first started out, I mean, we can talk about the whole journey, but when you first started, what type of addiction? Is this mostly like alcohol? Is it other drugs? I don't want to say harder drugs because I know, all drugs, but
When
is there a
I was first in
specific thing that you guys were
the
faced
field,
with?
I mean, it was early 2000s, and I ran that teenage program for a bunch of years. But it really wasn't any one thing, it was everything. I had kids in there that were alcoholic, at 17, 18 years old. I had kids in there on pills. I had kids in there just smoking weed, like completely oblivious to everything. There was what they called DXM was really big at the time, which is like the cough syrup stuff. And sometimes kids just do crazier things like huffing. The kids will just do anything they think will get them. They're just like anything they can find.
Is there a through line that you find with all addictions? Is there, when you talk about trying to understand the human in front of you and what they're dealing with, is there something that's universal that you see through everything, whether it's, huffing or
Yeah, that's a great
what you call the D?
like
I know
DXM, like rappers call it like lean,
lean. Yeah. Okay. I was thinking
Yeah.
I was like, I never heard it. I listened to
Or
plenty
they
of
would take
songs.
those little pills that were like Corseed cough and colds. They would take like a whole pack of I mean, it was
Yeah, a lot.
just anything to get messed up. But the through line, that's a really great question because actually it really doesn't matter what someone's addicted to. Addiction is addiction. It all takes you to the same place. Some drugs or addictions take you there faster than others, but it all takes you to hell. It's just how fast you're going to get there. So there's really not a huge difference in what someone's addicted to. The difference comes in as far as how do you get them out? of it. You can literally, if you've ever been around a bunch of addicts, you can put them all in the same room. I don't care where they're from, how old they are, what race they are, how much money they have. They'll be like, yeah, man, that's my story, because addiction just follows like a script. But the way out is just, you have to find what motivates each particular person. And a lot of that's based on their values, their personality, the things they think are important. You have to find those individual pieces to pull them out of it. I feel like that's the part that I'm good at, is motivating people to get sober, even people who don't even want to be sitting in front of me initially. Yeah. So I look for those.
How long, and everyone's different, but when you're talking to somebody who's dealing with addiction who comes to you, how long does it usually take to really have that breakthrough? Is there a common, what's so hard about this particular conversation? There's so much that I want to know about it, and I hope I'm not too scattered with the questions here. But one of the things is like, how long does it normally take for somebody to get? And I'm sure some people never do, but is there like a general timeline that you have, that when you work with people or have seen people working with their family, that it really has that breakthrough?
I don't know that there is a general timeline, because it depends on where someone's at in their stages of change. Like, some people are completely in denial when they cross my path. They're like, I don't even know what you're talking about. And then other people are like, well, it's sort of a problem, but it's not that bad, and then other people are like, yeah, I got to do something. So it depends on where they're starting from. The other thing that it depends on a lot is how their family is responding. Families, they don't mean to. They come from the best place in their heart, but they mess it up and they slow down the process. And they do that by playing the villain in the addict or alcoholic's mind, in their narrative. Because addiction thrives on secrecy, shame, and guilt. And as long as somebody is like feeling sorry for themselves and feeling resentment, self pity, the addiction will continue to grow. And the family member, usually the most closest person to that individual, like usually their parent or their spouse, or they see this person they love, like, like driving off the cliff, ruining their life and yours too, usually, if you're the family member. And so you get desperate. And when you get desperate, you do desperate things. So you start trying to like find all the evidence, and you start trying to control it, and you start trying to like make this person see how bad of a problem it is by throwing it in their face that they're screwing up all the time. And the more you do that, which is a very natural response, a very valid response, but the more you do that, the more they see you as the problem and not the addiction as. And so the first thing I do is get family members to stop doing it, because I can't get anywhere with someone when their family's doing it, because it's all they'll talk to me about. That's what they see as their problem, that person, not their behavior. Family members slow it down by giving, on accident, giving addicts and alcoholics like a distraction, somebody else to focus on that's problematic. And as long as they can do that, they don't have to look at themselves.
When you're working with families, is there a roadmap for that you tell them, like, yes, you identify it and you say, this is what we need to do on this first step, but is there certain things that you say, or give them talking points on what to say and how to be compassionate, or how to listen? But like, what is that? Do you have a formula for that?
I do. I have a couple of things for that. Most people who have an addicted loved one, they go about the problem by they're trying to protect their loved one by making sure they don't burn any permanent bridges. So they fix all the external problems. They don't want them to fail out of school. They don't want them to go to jail or get that DUI. They don't want them to lose the job. So they're doing everything to try to help that person hold their outside life together. Meanwhile, they're mad at that person inside the context of the relationship, because for several reasons, because this person is not holding up their end of the relationship at all. They're dropping their responsibilities. They're upset with that person because they're just not reasonable. And that's the opposite of what I want families to do. I want families to let the universe be the villain. So whatever bad thing happens to this person, I don't want it coming from you, because that's called punishment. If your loved one breaks the law and you're the one that called the cops, they're not going to see that they did something wrong. They're going to see, I can't believe you called the cops on your own son, or whatever. They won't get over it for 20 years. They'll be thinking about it. And so I want the families to like let the cards fall where they're going to fall in the world outside of them. And they, when possible, it's not always possible, but you play the good guy. Because when the natural consequences hit and you respond to that with empathy, it's not that you approve, but you respond to the fact that that would be painful. It'd be horrible to get a DUI. It'd be embarrassing and it's like expensive and, all the things. If you can respond with empathy, it activates the learning part of their brain and they start to connect the dots. So when you do that, I can't tell you how long it's going to take, but I can tell you it speeds up the process significantly. They start figuring it out.
How do you straddle that line of being empathetic? I mean, I know it's possible because that's what you're doing, but
Mhm.
how would a family go about being empathetic and being supportive, but not being like supportive of the thing? Not to be the villain, be a good guy, but not really condoning the activity that they're doing. That just seems such a hard balancing act.
What you're empathetic towards is just the frustrations and problems and concerns they have in their life, like when they're upset at their boss, when they're having trouble in school, when they're, having to go to drug court or whatever. You're just empathetic with how it would feel to be in that situation. Man, I know that sucks. Like if your kid goes to math class and they're struggling and they have a bad grade, you can say, "Well, I told you to study." That's not too good. But you can say, "Dude, I remember I hated math too. Math was hard and I had a rough teacher. I know what that's like." And then they feel heard and listened to. And it does a couple of things. It activates the learning part of the brain because if you said it to your kid about math, they think, "Yeah, I should." They'll think it if you don't say it. If you say it, and this is just a human reaction, we're all like this, they naturally just wanna be defensive because that's our instinct, and that prevents them. So, yeah.
That's such an amazing. Glad I asked the question because that's such an amazing little tweak of verbiage to be able to turn something into an actionable step of something that people can do. And that's, part of what the show is about is the different tools, talents, and techniques that
Mhm.
people have. And so that's something very small that somebody could do that could change a whole relationship.
Yeah, and you make a good point with it because these techniques that I teach, I teach them and I talk about addiction, but they're not addiction specific. This is how you help someone stop making bad choices. This is how you help someone who's maybe in a bad situation and they can't see it. This is how you help someone, whether it's your 5-year-old or your coworker or your best friend. If you've got someone in your life that you're concerned about and they need to make some changes, this is how to do it. It
Got any
works
other
across the board.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, give me some more gems. You got anything else you're hiding up that sleeve?
So after you get out of the villain role and you're letting them make messes because if you're fixing their messes, they think their life is manageable. They're like, "What are you talking about? I'm still making $100,000 a year." And you're thinking, "Yeah, because I'm doing this and this and this," and I'm like literally holding you together or whatever. Because it gives them the wrong impression. So you have to let some of those balls drop up so they can see it's unmanageable. So you do those two things. Then you you start to do what I call building credibility. I have a process I call the invisible intervention, and I talk about it like it's a credit score. Like if you want to buy a house, you need a credit score like at least in the 700s or something, right? So I say, this is how many points you get. If you say this and you hear this, you got this many points. If you say this and hear this, you just lost them. So it's like how much credibility do you have? The reason why this is so important is because your loved one knows you love them, okay? And they appreciate that, but in some degrees, it's kind of annoying because maybe your love's like, it's heavy some. That's not what's gonna make them listen to you. What's gonna make them listen to you is when they think you understand their situation completely. Because it's kinda like you might know your grandmama loves you, but you might not take her advice if you think she has no idea what I'm dealing with. So your job while you're doing those other 2 things, you're using, like, a lot of reflective listening skills, you're verbalizing their point of view, you're mirroring it back to them. Because what's gonna happen is eventually they're gonna get themselves in a mess, a bind of some sort, because that's the nature of addiction. And they're gonna come to you. And when you have built your credit score, they're gonna like care what you think. They're gonna ask you what you think they should do. And they're gonna put a lot of weight on your opinion. But they will not do that if you don't have the credit score, the credibility. That's what I do with clients. I just spend like whatever amount of time it takes to get this person to like feel like I understand where they're coming from. I understand like all the nuances of their situation, the people in their life. Like I got you, like I got your storyline. Because then they're ready to listen to me. It's like if you have kids and then somebody who didn't have kids maybe was trying to teach you how to parent, you might not listen to them because they don't have credibility to you. Yeah.
You said you work with a lot of where do you find your clients or how do you how's your business organization structured?
Yeah. Initially, I just started like a counseling private practice like counselors do, and I was specializing in addiction, and we were helping families and stuff like that. So we just ran regular addiction outpatient treatment. But at some point, I started doing the whole like YouTube thing by accident, like I do most things. I didn't mean to do it, I just did it. And then because of that, now people listen to our content from all over the world. And so we don't really do standard addiction treatment anymore. We do a lot of consultation for family members, a lot of teaching them like the invisible interventions, that. And I still do some short-term coaching of people that are in recovery, usually ones that family members have gone through our like process to get them. So it's a little different. Most of it
Yeah, no,
virtual too. Yeah.
yeah. Well, hey, listen. However, you got to get done, and addiction is such a major challenge in the
Mhm.
world, really. If we're gonna zoom out a little bit. So hey, however you could do it, whether I don't know, TikTok, YouTube, VR. I don't know. However it need to be done. Oh, zooming out a bit. I don't know. This isn't like a pop quiz or like a test for numbers or anything, but from what you see in addiction, how big is this problem in the United States? And I just mean addiction
Probably.
in general. Like, do you have any source material background of like, no, this is
It's probably the biggest problem that we have, because when you have one person who's addicted, when you said a while ago, like, whose family doesn't have addiction, right? It's so true. And when you have one person that's addicted, not only is it causing massive damage to their life, it's causing massive damage to everyone around them that lives with them and loves them, like, big time. It's changing the lives of everyone else, and it does that for generations. Like, if your dad was an addict and you have trauma because your dad was an addict, you're gonna be a different kind of parent to your kid because of that. They're gonna have trauma from your trauma. That's called generational trauma. And so helping one person get better helps everyone around them get better. And then people that get better from addiction usually start helping other people. So it's a problem that multiplies in the direction of a not good direction, but it's also a problem you can multiply in a positive.
we all heard about the epidemic of the opioid crisis,
Yeah.
and how big that was. Then you got things that like cell phone addiction with kids. They're addicted to those things, and then there's the weed gummies. I mean, that's still when they're like there's things. There's vaping. There's all these things. You have addiction is addiction, but is there a scale of like what you're seeing and like what people are most dealing with these days? Is there anything that's still top of the food chain?
I mean, as far as what comes through my door, the top things that I see would be alcohol, opiates, and marijuana. Those are the top 3. Those are the common 3. So I see those things most frequently. Everything, but there's still everything out there. I mean, I see people that gamble, I see people that have porn addiction. It's all there, but the top 3 are those are those main ones.
Are there any other resources that you have seen that work? I mean, there's just the things that you do and how you're doing it, but I also feel like once you're behind the curtain and you see, the industry, the treatment industry, are there any other people that you point to like, oh, they're doing great work over there, or this organization is doing great, or this drug works well to help people get off of this? Is there anything that you're seeing in the industry?
I think there's tons of things that work. I think it all works. Um, people work every different kind of program. Some people take a medicine. It's called medication assisted treatment. Like some people go to 12-step meetings. Some people go to 90 days of inpatient treatment. It all works if the person is in the right mindset. So my job is getting a person ready to receive whatever plan they want to receive. Because it's not, this might work for you, that might work for you. I like it all. I say I'm non-denominational recovery.
I like that.
I'm for recovery. I just like all the ways. Yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing. So, are there any stories that you have that you could share with the audience of success of something that really like shine that you're like, oh, this you don't have to give names or anything, of course, but somebody or some story or that you experienced that you're proud of?
Yeah. I mean, there's just hundreds and hundreds of them. So when I get asked this question, hard for me to answer. So I just think of like who I've worked with recently, who's like the
Okay,
freshest.
yeah.
So like recently I was working with this guy in his late 20s, early 30s maybe. And his wife had found me on YouTube or whatever and talked him into coming to see me. And she thought he was like trying to change. But after I started talking to this guy, he was trying to make her think he was trying to change, but he really wasn't. And so um, when he came to see me, he's like, "Yeah, yeah, I'm drinking too much. I'm trying to cut it back." I don't even know that he was really trying to cut it back, but if he was, it wasn't. And I'm seeing this guy, he's in a 12-week program, which is like the longest program I keep people because like I said, I don't do a lot of coaching. It's fairly short term these days. And I'm like on 8 on week 8 with this guy, and I'm guy isn't getting any better. I'm like, "Oh, I got like 4 weeks left. Like, I'm not gonna get this one or whatever." I'm getting nervous. I'm getting squirmy. So, he's going on, and finally, he he has this important, big family event to go to, and it's the kind of event where people usually drink. And he for the first time, he said, like, "I'm gonna go, and I'm not going to drink," for whatever reason. He decided he wasn't gonna. And that was at that one event. And that was the first time we had any level of success. And what's important isn't so much about the fact that he didn't drink, but it's about the fact that I got to ask him, "Why didn't you drink? And what was that like? And do you think that was a good decision?" Because when you ask people those questions, now we have like seeds of motivation that you can grow. And so he's, telling me, "Well, I really knew that this particular thing, it wasn't about me. It was about this person. This person's really important to me, and I just really want to be present." I'm like, right there it is. That's a hook that's important to this person. I started building on that. And by the time we got to week, I mean, it wasn't like he was sober from there. He had that little win, which was good. And then he fell off the cliff again, which is to be expected. But by the time we got to week 11, because that was week 8, and that was the first literally 2 days he'd ever been sober in the last, I don't know, 10 years or something. And at week 11, he stopped drinking completely, was going to 12-step meetings. And at week 12, he had a sponsor, he had a whole community. He was meditating every morning, I'm like, "Dang." So, it's sort of like slow, 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 and then all at once. And that's kinda how it works.
How much of your work and your experience is frustrating? Is it hard to deal with and working through this? Because I know it's very fulfilling when you have those wins and you're doing good work and you're working with families and you're helping. But I want to talk about the frustrating part. Like, how frustrating is it, or scary? Like, do you have those emotions a lot in your work?
I don't have it nearly as much as most people that do what I do have because I don't put the weight on my shoulders of it's my job to make sure this person never drinks. When I start dealing with someone, in my mind, my goal is to make sure this person has a good experience. Because if they don't get sober, or if they do get sober and they struggle later, they'll come back either to me or somewhere else because they'll be like, "I know exactly what to do. I'm not even nervous about doing it. I got this." So that's something within my control, is to sort of control their experience. If somebody has a relapse, I don't take it as some sort of failure of my job. Like, this is a learning process. And so because of that, it allows me to have a lot more, like, tolerance for this whole thing. Because the average burnout rate, people leave the field is average of 5 years. It takes more than 5 years to become licensed and certified to do what I do. So that's really unfortunate. But when you have it in your mind what you're really trying to do and you set reasonable expectations, you just don't get as frustrated. Now, I if I'm a lot more likely to get frustrated with family member than I am the person, mostly because I'm trying to work with this person and I'm like hearing about this family member's doing, and I'm like, "You're ruining it. You're sabotaging me." And so that's why I have family coaches and counselors that work with me. And I'm like, "You better get them. Like, you better tell them to stop doing this because they don't mean to, but they're sabotaging me." So that's probably the more frustrating part for me.
You mentioned the other family counselors and things. Do you usually partner with other people or organizations to uh, approach or overcome challenges? Or do you work with like family law attorneys or anybody like that you often bounce ideas off of?
No, not particularly. The 2 coaches I have now, I mean, I've had different people that worked in the practice, but these 2 have been with me. They were both my interns at some point early on when they were in school. So we have the same philosophy and same understanding. We're on the same train, and so we can kind of lead these families in the same direction. So they're the ones that work closely with me. We see families at a time. Usually, we call it lawyering. So we do family work, but not all in the same room like you may have think of, like when you think of like family count, because that doesn't go well with it's not pretty. So
Mm.
we separate you up, and the family gets their own, we call it like lawyer, advocate, or whatever, their person that's on their side. And then the person with the addiction gets their own advocate, which is usually me. I'm always the defense attorney. And so we sort of conquer and divide it. And because of that, we kind of need to understand and be on the same page of philosophy. So we're not driving because otherwise the addicted person is telling me how horrible the family is. The family is telling their person how horrible the addict is. And if you didn't really understand the dynamics of the situation, you're going to be advising, you're going to be pulling this family system in two separate directions. And so, because we have a similar sort of understanding and philosophy, we know what we're trying to do. We're headed, we're driving this family in the same direction.
When you talked about the beginning, so I want to go back a little bit when you first got into this and you started out your career.
Mhm.
How long did it take you to kind of figure out that? Because everything you just said about your way of being and not really attaching to the situation, but controlling what you can, is that something that you developed early on when you were figuring it out with the youth counseling?
Well, with the teenagers, I definitely started figuring out pretty quick that the parents were not handling it well, because they're telling you everything that, they're just rebelling against the parent, most of it. I got the parents like leaving me messages, telling me everything this kid did wrong. And I've got this kid telling me, I can't stand my mom, like all the things. So, I figured out fairly quickly that I had to do something with the family piece. Cause like I said, they're just doing the best they can. They're scared. They're desperate, but they sabotage, like they literally like make my work not work. So I worked with a family or two, and then one of those families I worked with decided to sort of hang around and help other families in my program. So they became parent mentors. And so I had this parallel process working where I'm working with these kids. And then I had these parent mentors who I had worked with and they had figured some things out. They started running this family group separately. And then parents would graduate and then they would just keep coming and help other parents. That parent group grew like it was me and my teenagers in like this room that looked like a long closet. You could probably fit maximum 15 people, and that would be like squished in. The family group met in the gymnasium of this hospital I worked at, which wasn't as big as like a school gym, but it was big. And they nearly outgrew their space, the family, because even if the kids didn't do well and they sort of fell off track, the families would keep coming to figure out how to get them back on track. The family program grew massive. That was sort of the beginning of working this system in like a parallel process.
It's really interesting, very impressive that you've been able to come up with your own style, your own way. Was there any other influences that you had, books that you read that you were like, "Oh, I'm going to implement like this," or this is a good idea, like maybe try that. Is there anything that stands out to you?
When you said books, the first thing that comes to my mind is I don't even really know why I read this book because I didn't even have kids at the time. I was like 20 or something. There's these books that have been around forever. They're called Parenting with Love and Logic. They got Parenting Toddlers with Love and Logic, Parenting Teens, Parenting Adults. I mean, they got like 25 versions of these books. It's basically just a philosophy. And it's that philosophy, which doesn't have anything to do with addiction. It's just parenting. I would make the parents that came to the program, this was their book. Like, this is the book we're working out of. Everybody has to read Parenting Teens with Love and Logic. Because the philosophy that it teaches is the whole, like, your role when you deal with a child that's a teen is you're just a consultant. Like, and it sort of frames it like your job isn't to control everything they do. It's just to set boundaries of what you will and won't do and to let them figure these things out. And so it's a different framework. And that framework actually just works really well with helping people figure out addiction too. So that was pretty influential for me.
What do you think is I know before we started recording, I think it's before we started recording. I don't know, kind of kind of got in the zone here. So I don't know what we said when. But when you you mentioned AI and
Hmm.
I you said there's something that you're doing right now with AI and
Yeah.
counseling.
Yeah.
What are you doing there?
I made an AI Amber just this year. It's so exciting. I know people have a lot of like mixed feelings about AI, but I love Amber AI because she does my work for me like all the time, 24. But
What what
if
what
most
type of
people know
work?
what,
Yeah, walk me through what you're doing.
like, because I've created so much content, I literally have over 1,000 videos on YouTube. That's not counting blog posts. That's not counting courses I've created, everything else. I was able to load all of that content in this AI model to train it on the way I do things, the way I give advice, my philosophies and all that kind of stuff. So it's like Chat GPT or any other AI model, but those models are based off of every piece of information that's ever been given in the whole world, and that kind of waters it down. And my AI is built specifically and only on the way that I would teach it. So I have people that just have subscription to Amber AI that they talk to all the time. They'll say, "I found this drug paraphernalia, and they told me they haven't been using it in 6 weeks. What do I do?" And then Amber AI will give them some ideas. Well, how do I say that? Well, should I send it in a text message? She'll write it out for you. And then I have people that are in recovery also are battling addiction that use it. So they talk to her just like they talk to me. She's like me, but smarter. She remembers everything, and I don't. And she remembers them like they have an account. So like they don't have to start over. Like they can build on conversation. She remembers as she learns you as you interact with her. So it's pretty exciting.
How did I not see this when I was going over like what you? This is amazing. But
It's a newer
now,
thing. Yeah, I launched it
okay,
a few months back, maybe 5 months back or something like that.
okay. Now I have a whole other. I mean, we don't have that much time left, but now I have a whole other litany of questions. So, what about like live? Do you have some kind of disclaimer where like this is not medical advice? Because if somebody logs in and asks a question and it says something that's not in line with you, and they're like, "Well, Amber AI told me to do it." Is that something that you've thought through?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I have like the normal things and said, "This is not therapy." I think most people understand they're talking to an AI, like they have some general understanding, but I mean, it says this is an AI, like it tells you because you can speak to it like you would speak to me, like verbally, it will talk back to you. So
Hmm.
or to make it clear that you are talking to an AI, because they might not know that. But and when I trained my AI, I train it on certain things. Like if people ask it a question about a medication, then she responds and says, "Listen, I'm not a doctor. I can't prescribe medicines. I can't tell you what to take or not take. I can tell you what I know about that particular thing, but I can't advise you." So you can kind of, if someone says they're thinking about self-harm, like you can train her on those scenarios that you can think about that might come. But I have a funny story about when she messed up.
Oh, please go. Let's go.
Okay. So a few months back, I was working with this young fella in his 20s who was sober, and he was doing good. He was like sober for like, I don't know, 6 months or something. But he was a single guy, and he and I were talking about like him getting back out into the dating world. And, get back out and learn how to date sober it's the whole thing. It's like he's nervous about it. And I think he's kind of socially anxious anyway. So we have been talking about it, and oh my gosh, like it just took a lot to work him up to even like speaking to a girl. We've been working on this whole thing. And then he comes to session one day, he's like, "Oh, I got a story for you, Amber. Let me tell you." I was like, "What?" He was like, "I was on Facebook Marketplace and I was looking for, I don't know, something for," like, and I went over to get it, and the girl that I got from, oh, she was cute. And I liked her. And so we were talking, I was like, "Well, tell me about her." He was telling me all about this girl. And then um he said, and I got the nerve up because I had been working on him like, "Look, it doesn't matter if you get out." His goal, I said, "I want you to just ask 10. I don't care if any of them say yes. The goal is for you to get over your phobia of doing it." So he's like, "So I did it." And this was like the first time. And he said, she turned around and she said, "Well, I'm moving to Las Vegas in a week, so I can't really do that. But you come see me at my work." And he said, "Well, where do you work?" Anyways, she was a stripper. So keep all that in the background.
Yeah.
So then this guy who's sober for 6 months, and then he meets this girl, and he's, like, so excited for himself, she's so cute. And then he said we were having this whole conversation, and I was like, "Are you gonna go to the club or whatever?" And he's like, "I don't know, I'm thinking about it." Then he says, "I'm gonna ask Amber if I should go." And this was kinda like I had just launched her not that long. And I was like, "Well, she better tell you right." And then he ended up texting me like 2 days later. He said, "Amber AI told me I should go to the strip club." I said, "No, she didn't." And he said, "Yes, she did." And he sent me the screenshot. I was like, "She did." He said, "That sounds like a fun adventure." And I was like, "Oh my God." I mean, I don't know that that would put me in liability, but that's not what I would have said. I wouldn't have told him not to because I know that's not helpful. But I wouldn't have just said, "Oh yeah, like do it,"
Yeah.
It's an
That's
adventure.
well,
But that's a funny story where she
that
messed
is a
it up.
funny story. And when
Yeah.
he was looking for a girlfriend on Facebook Marketplace,
No, he was looking to purchase a chair or something for his apartment, and
oh,
when he went to pick it up, he was looking for a girl. He went to get the thing he was buying, I can't remember even what it was, and the girl that was selling it was, like, super cute, and so he started talking to her.
oh, got it, got it, got it, got it. So I
I
was
should have been
like, wow,
clearer.
that's a different kind of date when you try to
But yeah,
find them
that
on
would have been a
Facebook.
whole separate treatment plan.
Oh, that's amazing. I mean, I bet you come across so many stories of people and like the ups and downs and
Yeah.
Man, so it was really cool. So everything that I've seen of you and like how you do your work, and I didn't even know half of this stuff. So this is really cool. But it's because this is heavy stuff, with what families have to deal with and what the world has to deal. And you have the right attitude, the right personality. You're not controlling. You're very calm and kind, and you're doing the right thing. You're do you, so I
Thanks.
guess that's the
Appreciate
question.
that.
Do you feel fulfilled? Do you feel like you're in the zone, that you who you are and what your place in the universe?
Yeah, like it's not even too it's not just that I love the addiction. I do feel like that's the place for me. Very passionate about it. You can probably tell by talking to me. But when I accidentally found myself being an entrepreneur, I'm also very passionate about that because that has been like for most people who go through the like hell and back of being addicted, I've been to the hell and back of trying to figure out how to run a business, which I did not know, and that was horrible. So I have a lot of passion about that too, and these days I see a lot of business people who drink too sort of my net businessmen who drink too much is especially yeah.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. So, yeah, the entrepreneurship thing, it's so hard. I feel like even all the guests that we talk about other things and, commercial real estate, whatever, there's something different about entrepreneurship and how hard it is. When people tell you how hard it is and you're like, "Oh, the hardest thing I did in my life and this and that," and you go, "Oh, yeah, like, I've done hard things before," and yeah. But with the entrepreneurship and trying to run a business or get something off the ground, it's soul taking, it's soul crushing.
It's consuming.
It's
Yeah.
consuming and like you can't turn your mind off and it's, you're thinking about like the future, the past, the left, the right, the up, the down, the middle, like
There's a
it's
lot of pressure riding on you, like the clients, the people that work for you. I mean, you're carrying like heavy weight. So it's no wonder that a lot of people end up drinking too much. I'm like, dude, no wonder you're here.
it
So they
it,
forget
it
that I
makes sense.
both levels, like, dude, I get it. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's a great point. And while we're almost up on time here, I want to make sure I give you the time to share any parting notes. But you would say that's the most of your audience and the people that you work with and you're seeing. It's businessmen who are drinking too much.
Well, all kind of people, family members watch me on YouTube to learn how to get through. And that just involves I mean, people watch me because their brother's addicted or whatever. As far as who I coach, as far as the addiction piece, I just tend to see a lot of like high achieving, high functioning alcoholic, which isn't really a clinical term, but everyone kind of understands the term.
I know who they are.
Yeah.
I know them.
Yeah. 'Cause
It's
it's like my
crazy.
mission to get people better before they hit bottom. I don't believe in hitting bottom. I think that's the dumbest idea ever. I'm like, "Dude, why would you wait till you lose everything? No, we're gonna turn this ship around." So, I like to get you when you're still in the functioning level whenever.
I know some people. I feel very fortunate that I still drink, but not nearly as much as I used to. Like I just can't do it anymore, and I don't want to do it anymore. But like, there's some people that I know who have done very, very well in their life and actually have loving families. Some
Mhm.
do, some don't. But you know, they'll drink from before they got to go on a trip. They'll be drinking as soon as they get to the airport. They'll drink on the plane. They'll drink when they get there
Mhm.
and they drink, and it's like, they make hundreds of thousands of dollars and they travel around the world and they do things and they're great people. They're nice people. And I'm
Yeah.
like,
I know they're
but
fabulous. Yeah.
but sometimes and they're a lot of fun to hang out with too. But it's like, what do you say? What do you say to that person? For me, and I know what you say. We just said it, but for me, is like, who am I to tell them that they're drinking? They're doing everything that we're doing. That we're hanging out. They're good. Their family's good. They're safe. They're go to private
Well,
schools.
that's a really good question because here's the thing, when you're a functioning alcoholic, the first place that the balls start to drop and the first person that sees it is gonna be your spouse. So you may be making a lot of money and you may be holding it together at work, but you're not doing good at home. Because usually it's like you work all day and you see all these clients, you make all this money, but you're stopping on the way home to buy alcohol. So you're not showing up for your wife the way you should. You're not showing up for your kids. He's ticked off at you. You're either passed out or maybe you get grumpy when you're drinking, whatever happens, you know? And so your marriage starts to fall apart first. That's usually the part where I start to see someone. The problem with that is when you've got somebody who's very successful on a lot of levels, a lot of these people I see are like top physicians. I mean, they're run Ironman contests and stuff. It's really hard to convince someone like that they got. It's so hard to convince anybody that has an addiction problem they have a problem. But somebody like that, they're like, I don't know what you're talking about. Like, I'm this, I'm that, I won this award or whatever. And so it's particularly there's a challenge there to get through to them. So I I don't try to talk to them about stopping. I just try to talk to them about who they are. I try to understand their situation. I build my credit and I wait for my moment. When I get it, I cash in my credit.
I love that. And that's one of the things that I always think, like, who am I to judge? I think it's wild sometimes, and I'm like, man, I can't believe you're still going strong. 25 years after college, and you like haven't skipped a beat from the same artist.
Yeah.
But I still, my friends, I love them, love spending time with them, love hanging out with them, and be there if it crumbles, when it
Yeah, I mean,
crumbles.
you don't
But
it's not about being there, but you're in a perfect position to help. Because secretly these really successful high functioning alcoholics, they're not admitting it to anyone out loud, and if you ask them about it, they would be very defensive and deny it, but they're struggling inside, and they have a lot of shame, and they have a lot of guilt about it, and they're doing a lot of, like, trying to stop and cut back, but they're not telling people that, and so and especially men, I see mostly and it's really hard, they don't like to be vulnerable at all. But if you can create a safe kind of place and the way you do it is you just talk about real things, but you use a lot of humor, that's what I do, and it makes it feel non-threatening. It's like we can talk about heavy things, and it doesn't feel heavy, and that's kinda how you can kinda get through to some get them to get real with you.
Amber, this has been amazing. You're a spark plug and a breath of fresh air. So before
Thank
we
you.
take off, yeah, thank you for your time, and congrats on your success. Anything you want to leave us with at your channel? I'll include everything on the show notes. Your how to get in touch with you and your YouTube channel, those things. But anything you wanna share with the audience?
Sure. I would just say if you are struggling with an addiction or your loved one, don't listen to people that tell you you're powerless. There's a million things you can do, and definitely don't be waiting for bottom. That's crazy talk. You can turn this around.
Appreciate you, Amber Hollingsworth. Thank you so much.
Thank you.